Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Social Services Exposed. This is basically the first I'm going into a contact log of in full depth for you of this case. So this is April 4th and this is 2022. So this is a few years back, and obviously I'm going to go fully through this and explain to you exactly what happened. Obviously give you the truth of the contact, not just the one-sided view of the social, because obviously they always document a biased view on these, and obviously they never give the accurate views. That is the problem with these things. So obviously, without further ado, let's get on to it and we'll go through it. Obviously, I've redacted the children's names because obviously that isn't fair for them to be out on YouTube. So where you see the blue lines, that is there. But obviously there is one elder child who's 13 going on 14 at the moment. Back then obviously he was a few years younger, and the youngest, which is now 8, obviously again he was a few years younger back then. So here we go. I'll just move the light. Make sure you guys can still see me just as well, because obviously I need, still fine there. So obviously it started off with them both arriving, one at 3:25, one at 3:46. Obviously we were dressed appropriately and with warm welcomes to the cousin and my parents, because the cousin came with my mum and dad, and they commented on the cousin's hat, and they're happy to see my eldest dressed in a Woody outfit. And Jeanette, who was the social worker, reminded us when there was 15 minutes of the session left and the game stopped, and my eldest told my wife he would like to show them what he had made them from school. He opened his bag and showed them his card and some cakes and chocolates, which was lovely. My eldest then sat with myself and my mum, which is his only living grandma, and they mentioned the wedding which he was due to attend, which we knew deep down the social was always going to put a spanner in the works to stop him going. But he stated that he did not want to go, but we knew something had been said in between this contact and prior to upset him in some way. So this is why he was starting to say he didn't want to go unless he was able to come home, which is again fair enough, because obviously you would want to attend it not in care. This then escalated by myself, which obviously, yes, I understand at the time, I probably shouldn't have raised my voice and things like that, but who told him that we wanted him to come home, which again is fair enough, and that it is not their fault that he is not back at home with them, which again is correct, because the social were holding him against his will. And but my dad then looked directly at Jeanette and told my oldest that Jeanette is the one making you stay away. She is the reason you can't come home. And my mum said to myself and my son that it's not true. Jeanette is trying her best to help you. Don't say that to my son, and you're getting him upset. But obviously later down the line in the case, when Mum came to realise obviously Jeanette was clearly the enemy, because she came out with the line, I'm aiming to get him home in April of which year. They never added that, because you think we've now had April 22, April 23, April 24, April 25, and now April 26, and still no kids returned. So clearly just a line to try and shut you up. I then escalated things further. Who do we hate in this room? Jeanette, it's her fault. I know my son joined in with myself, and all while he was clinging on to myself, and obviously my mum and Jeanette, the social worker, and the family centres worker attempted to calm the situation down, but deep down they were making things worse, to be fair. And Jeanette spoke calmly and directly to myself, but I think it was more aggressive the way she was being, and asked me to not make things more difficult, and we need to support my son, and we don't want to upset him any further. But in all fairness, it's the social constantly upsetting the kids by not giving them the opportunity to speak up with their parents and give honest answers. If it's you making things more difficult, I want him home now, which is only being honest. Jeanette and the worker encouraged my youngest to get his coat on, which he did, and collected together all his things, bags, coats and snacks. And Jeanette said, shall we do high fives, fist bumps at the door, which is normally what we've always done. This has worked in the past, and then we will see mummy and daddy next week, because at that stage we were only seeing them weekly. We all headed out of the room together. When we got to the door to say goodbye, my eldest began clinging to myself and refused to let go. It says here, I did nothing to support my eldest, and he clung to me as well, and he says, we're taking you home, whereas I clearly never said that. That was them adding these words into the documents to make it look worse for when it went to court. But the other side to this bit is the social could have ended it with us going out of the contact centre first and ending contact there. They chose to deliberately take this bit into the car park, where you'll see this bit spill out further worse, and you'll see why. So as we headed to the car park, the door was opened, and I would not let go of my eldest, and I carried him over to the car. And then obviously Jeanette and the worker followed closely and kept speaking to me, explaining that I was upsetting my eldest, which I clearly wasn't. It was Jeanette upsetting him. And Jeanette said, you're the one upsetting him because you're... Sorry, I said to Jeanette, you're the one upsetting him because you're taking away from us, which is clearly the truth, because obviously William was, at the time, was citing that as well. Because he was saying, I want to go home, but they've never listened to either child through this case at all. They've never listened to the youngest, they've never listened to the eldest. And that's just factual. My wife Zoe then spoke directly to me, saying, apparently get him in the car, Andrew. She tried to get my eldest in the backseat, which she didn't. Because then Jeanette explained to me and my wife he could not take my eldest home, and that she would need to call the police if he continued like this. We explained that we did not want to do this, and it would be the best if he and Zoe could support my eldest back into Ruth's care, and we refused, apparently. Because myself and my wife would not let go of my eldest. Zoe opened the car door and attempted to put my eldest in the back of the car, which this didn't happen because at the time Jeanette had pushed William to the floor, which is what you'll see in a minute. Because if I read the bit further on, you'll understand. Because Jeanette explained that she would need to call the police. They continued with this, and things would escalate even further. Jeanette asked Zoe and Andrew, for my eldest's sake, please stop this, and encourage him to go back with Ruth. They would not listen and tried to put him in the car again, which we didn't. We never tried to put him in the car. And both myself, Jeanette and the worker took hold of my eldest's hand to keep him from being taken, whereupon he dropped to the floor. And it's not he dropped to the floor. This is where she threw him to the floor. She was being extremely aggressive at the time because she'd lost her temper, lost her rag, because I had not. Yes, I'd raised my voice, I admit that. I had not sworn at her. My wife is the one that vouches for me on the day. I'd never sworn at her. Whereas at the end of all this, she swore at me. And that is the stupid thing. She assaulted my son. And obviously you'll see the next line to this. Because Zoe said, phone out and video her, Andrew. And obviously, I do admit I did scream at Jeanette saying, but I didn't say fucking, I just said you pushed him to the floor. I said it's your fault. I never said effing fault. And obviously Zoe took my eldest to the other side of the car. And the reason we took him to the other side of the car was because he now had a rip in his buddy outfit. And we were trying to clean him up. Because always in our car, we've always had wet wipes. So we tried to clean him up. That's why. And that's the only reason we took him to the car and sat him on my knee. And I was outside the car and he sat on my knee while we cleaned him up. That's their reasoning for me putting him in the car. And he never went in the car, just on my knee outside the car with the door open. But obviously this is where they try to make it darker, to make it their side of the story. But and obviously it goes on as myself and my wife, but they would not listen. The worker also tried to appeal for them, explaining they need to support my eldest back to the carer. Jeanette called Ruth, which is again throughout other videos you'll notice in this. Mum had taken my youngest bag and coat. When asked for this, she did hand it over to Jeanette, which was fine. Ruth arrived within minutes and Ruth placed my youngest back in the car. He went quietly. At this point, Mum was clinging on to my eldest, who was extremely upset and traumatised, but the traumatism was all because of Jeanette. Because he was clearly saying, I do not trust you. I'll never trust you, Jeanette. Because it's you that have taken me from my parents and refused to listen to what I've said. And yes, I was stood there filming. Jeanette knelt down and spoke directly to him, who looked terrified. Yeah, he was terrified of her. That's what she's not telling you. Jeanette took his hand and told him she knew he was upset, but he needed to trust her. But then, how does she know how he feels? She's not been in the same situation as him. That's the thing. Because listen to how the words are. He needs to go with Ruth and his brother. He's saying, I don't want to go back with Ruth, which is fair enough. That's how he feels. You are keeping me away. It's all your fault, which is, again, factually correct. Jeanette said to my eldest that he could not go home with Mummy and Daddy right now, but that she would let everyone know how he feels, that she understands that this has been a long time for him and she knows that it's not fair, but we have to listen to the judge and he wants my eldest to stay with Ruth right now. But then it's always going to come across biased because it's her word saying, I don't want you to ever go home because we're making money hand over fist about this. It's all the corruption and we know that. But all the time while she was speaking with my son, she was saying, I did slightly interrupt a bit, I do admit that. I was slightly raising my voice, yes, but that's only because she was trying to corrupt my son's mind by filling my son's mind with lies, because we know she never cared about him. He's just a number to her, by the way. And Jeanette would stop while I was apparently shouting at her, brought her attention back to my son. When we then spoke to myself and said, walk my son back to the car, do this for him and make it easier for him. Eventually, we edged towards the car and he got in the front seat. Jeanette fastened his seatbelt and spoke with him directly. Jeanette told my eldest that she is listening to him, but she clearly wasn't. She knows this must feel like such a long time, but how would she know it's such a long time? She's never been a foster kid. She's never been in that same situation. He is safe with Ruth, clearly not, considering what she's done further down the line and considering she's a psychopath, and that he will be okay. Jeanette told him that she is so sorry that this has happened, but he had done nothing wrong, and looked at Jeanette with tears in his eyes and nodded. I closed the door and Ruth pulled out of the space, and she told Zoe and myself to wave and smile at both boys when we drove past, which we did. And our youngest would, and then this is the other bits about the contact, the observation. I was very excited when he came out of school wearing his Easter hat, which was amazing. When asked if he was looking forward to seeing Mummy and Daddy, he said yes, which that's classed as basic care. We gave him an orange fruit. She provided a cake. My cousin enjoyed his, which was her cake. They've got a fact correct because she's a she, not a his. So again, that shows how awful they are at doing these documents. He said it was cold. Dad put it in the fridge, which is all fine. My eldest came into family time. He was dressed in his Woody costume. I'm pleased to see everyone. Frank commented that he came out of the bus smiling and high fives everyone. My eldest was distraught at the end of family time. This was due to parents being unable to manage or to provide emotional support. Really, they considering she could have ended it before it went into the car park. Doesn't take any consideration that 50-50 blame with her. My youngest witnessed this but was very quiet. He enjoyed family time up until this point. There are bits of grammar issues with this bit. I'll point them out. I was emotional warmth, lots of hugs and kisses from Dad mainly. GM, I think that's grandma, lots of encouraging words and warm interaction. Mum sat quiet on the sofa. My eldest was a bit disappointed to not be playing on the computer. Dad Susan picked him up for a cuddle and showed him his treats. My eldest told my wife and myself that he had something in his bag for both of them, and they said they would look at the something and nice and playful teasing from Dad, GP, and Mum we played Monopoly. Some of this doesn't make sense. When my eldest got upset, he wanted an orange piece. Dad and GM worked well. Look at that, settling him. Obviously, clearly not spelled like a exclamation mark in it. Granddad told him tough life's not fair. But you get the gist of it. A lot of it they just seem to type in a load of random awfulness, and then it says at the end of family time, as recorded above, it was clear myself and Zoe were incapable of making things easier for my eldest. I got my eldest more upset and did not try to decelerate, and in fact the opposite. Both Zoe, my wife, and me appeared to forget about my youngest, and at no point did they check on him to see how any of the behaviour had impacted on him. He was not considered by either parent, but that's where this doesn't take the truth into it, because we did. I was always looking across, and giving him the thumbs up, and he was okay. He was always giving me the thumbs back up, and that's how I've always done it with Ethan. And that's how he's always been back with myself. As long as I've had that with him, I know he's okay. Because it's always the thumbs up, thumbs down, whether you're okay. I know that with him as a relationship. So I know my kids better than the social, because obviously you're always going to, but when you go into the court arena, they slam you for saying that, when you say you know your kids better than them. So, this is a bit of a longer episode. I know it's more detailed, but obviously you can see from the information you've got that's a contact log for one day. Obviously there have been other documents detailed about it, because he then suspended contact for some time, which that was the awful thing. And obviously we've needed to then fight it to get it back on, and obviously it doesn't then take into consideration how corrupt other parts of the social are. And I'm going to get through bit by bit, find the other bits I can then share with you, other documents. I'm also going to share with you different statements as we go through this, and you'll see just how bad they are and how quickly they are to try and sink your battleship, effectively as it is. So I'll leave it there for now, and obviously please share these on and get them out there, because obviously, and any questions you do have regarding these sort of things, I am open to collabing with people in similar situations, because we need to get together on how many people out there are affected, especially if you're in the Cheshire West area, because we know how bad the Cheshire West area are, and I know there's a lot out there affected. So please try and get in touch in the comments and things like that, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you. Goodbye.